Good evening. You're watching the 7 o'clock English news from the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. His Majesty Sultan Haitham meets a number of sheikhs of the wilayats of the Governorate of Dhafar at Al Husn Hall in the Wilaya of Salalah. His Majesty gives his generous directives in a direct dialogue with his loyal people for the prosperity of the dear country. And His Majesty the Sultan greets His Excellency, the President of the United Mexican States, on his country's independence anniversary. Those are the headlines, and now the news in detail. In a move to deepen the constant contact between His Majesty Sultan Haitham bin Tariq and the people of this nation, His Majesty's kindly met the number of sheikhs of the wilayats of Dhafar this morning at Al Husn Hall in Hay Al Shati in the Wilaya of Salalah. His Majesty issued his generous directives to a direct dialogue with his loyal people in the meeting for the prosperity of this dear country. The blessed meeting expressed His Majesty's constant keenness to closely review their wilayat's needs and requirements and listened to the proposals regarding developmental services and ways needed to strengthen the role of the government agencies. The meeting was also attended by His Highness Sayyid the Yazid bin Haitham bin Tariq Al Said, Minister of Culture, Sports and Youth, His Highness Sayyid Bil Arab bin Haitham bin Tariq Al Said, His Excellency Sayyid Khalid bin Hilal bin Saud Al Busaidi, Minister of the Diwan of the Royal Court, His Excellency Nasr bin Hamoud Al-Kindi, Secretary General of the Royal Court Affairs, His Excellency Sayyid Mohammed bin Sultan bin Hamoud Al-Busaidi, Minister of State and Governor of Dhafar, His Excellency the Deputy Governor of Dhafar, and the Excellency the Walis of the Governorate. His Majesty Sultan Haitham bin Tariq sent cable greetings to His Excellency President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador of the United Mexican States on his country's independence anniversary. The Shura Council Office discussed in its meeting today issues related to handling the situation of retirees who have to repay loans. The office reviewed Central Bank of Oman's CBO response in this regard. The central bank stated that it is working on collecting data of those covered by retirement in order to acquaint with the volume of their debt. The meeting as well reviewed the draft law of civil associations. It also discussed a draft law proposal on regulating residential neighborhoods and international experiences in an inhabiting expatriate laborers at specialized housing complexes. The meeting touched upon topics related to urbanization percentage at family businesses and job opportunities for Omanis at the service sectors like logistics, mining and tourism. The meeting was chaired by His Excellency Sheikh Khalid bin Hilal Al-Mauli, Chairman of the Shura Council. The doctors emphasize on the matter of taking the precautionary measures seriously to avoid a second wave of COVID-19 spread. Meanwhile, around 33 COVID-19 patients are admitted in Al-Nahda Hospital. On the other hand, the first COVID-19 death case was recorded among the health staff working in the health institutions. It's worth mentioning that a huge number of challenges and pressure is facing those working in the health sector as they exert great efforts to combat COVID-19, with hopes that the community and members will adhere to the health instructions by the bodies concerned to limit the impacts of the pandemic and avoid further infections in the upcoming period. The Minister of Health announced 438 new cases of COVID-19 in the Sultanate, taking the total number of positive COVID-19 cases to 90,660. The number of recoveries stood at 84,113, which is 92.7% of the total cases reported so far. 7 new COVID-19 related death cases were reported, taking the total to 797. The Minister also pointed out that 62 cases were hospitalized over the past 24 hours, bringing the total of current hospitalized COVID-19 infected patients stands at 488, of which 184 are in intensive care units, ICU. The Minister of Health reiterated that a second wave of pandemic spread is possible if proper precautionary measures are not adhered to. It also warned against compliance, especially in gathering places and beaches. We have more details in the following report.
Many countries of the world are witnessing a second wave of corona cases and the reimposition of precautionary measures to avoid further impacts on the economy and society. The Ministry of Health reiterated its call to adhere to the precautionary measures to limit the societal transmission of the virus, warning against complacency, especially in gathering places and beaches.
Here in Oman, we have passed the peak of cases of COVID-19. However, this does not mean that a second peak or even a larger peak or a second wave will not come. We're actually still very susceptible to having a second peak and a second wave. The reason is that society does not develop enough what's called herd immunity in this short period of time. So we want to remind everyone to stay the course and use all the preventive measures, which are hand hygiene, wearing the mask, and keeping a distance of 2 meters, or social distancing.
The world soon caught its breath to count the repercussions of the coronavirus COVID-19, purging the dust of the first wave after nearly 9 months of conflict in which the health sectors faced what threatened their steadfastness until the rise in infection numbers in some countries, with indicators of a second wave. A sudden rise in numbers of the cases and the deaths exceeded expectations, confusing preparations of the countries. Warnings of the severity of the effects of the second wave that rearranges countries at the forefront of the rate of infections and deaths. Experts talk about the mechanisms of the virus mutation amid fears that the second wave will be the fastest spreading based on the backgrounds of the viruses that swept the world in past years, and the winter season is a season in which the world is accustomed to the widespread of influenza, especially in countries with low temperatures.
We have noticed in Oman that a lot of the cases that are occurring are coming from family gatherings. So we really have to pay attention to when we conduct a family gathering. Is it really necessary? Can we decrease the number of people? Can we decrease the frequency of these gatherings? And if there is a gathering, we must keep to very strict measures of social distancing, keeping a distance of 1 to 2 meters, wearing the masks, and keeping our hands clean. It's also advisable to have family gatherings if it is necessary, to be obviously with a small number and to be outdoors. And the weather is now starting to cool down a little bit.
The return of tourism to a large extent in some countries has opened the door to a shutterstock for a second societal infection, which is what the competent authorities warn against, especially in light of the negligence of some people and their continued frequenting of the beaches and water ponds, unaware of what this negligence may lead to, which may push the concerned authorities returning to previous procedures and lockdown, which is not very favorable to many. Abdullah bin Ahmed al-Rubi'i, Sultanate of Oman Television.
Due to the current situation of COVID-19 pandemic, the Science and Technology Center in Al-Dakhiliya Governorate conducted a number of virtual training workshops for teachers, students and parents. More details in the following report.
To inculcate innovation and scientific research among teachers, students and parents, the Science and Technology Center in Al-Dakhiliya Governorate implemented a number of training workshops virtually.
COVID-19 pandemic has changed the educational system dramatically. So, therefore, Science and Technology Center has joined national forces to reduce the impact of this particular crisis on the educational system. So we have used different approaches to reduce the impact of this particular crisis. First approach, we conducted our programs and courses using a distance learning. The second approach is we set up educational platform. This educational platform is unique for Science and Technology Center.
The online lessons and workshops are prepared at the educational studio in the center, utilizing state-of-the-art equipment to enhance the learning process.
The center has been playing a great role in enhancing the learning process during the COVID-19 period, especially the educational studio. We have two things there. I mean, for recording different materials and lessons, which is going to be used, inshallah, in the learning platforms later on, and for broadcasting live streaming lessons for the students.
The interactive workshops focused on different themes related to the fourth industrial revolution, including Internet of Things, nanotechnology, artificial intelligence, and renewable energy. Through such virtual workshops, Nizwa Science and Technology Center seeks to boost community awareness about the latest innovations, scientific and technological developments. صالح بن خلفان الرحبي, ولاية of Nizwa الداخلية Governorate.
And now for some international news, the National Statistics Bureau of China say today the country's economy continues to recover from the coronavirus pandemic with growth in retail sales, foreign trade and investments. A spokesman of the National Statistics Bureau told reporters in Beijing that the retail sales, a major indicator of consumption growth, grew for the first time since the coronavirus outbreak. The Shanghai Composite Index gained 0.2% after the government reported retail sales rose 0.5% in August of a year earlier. The first positive growth this year. The data also showed a rebound in foreign trade and investment. Mr. Fu cautioned, however, that the current recovery remains unbalanced because of the overall state of the global economy. North Korean state media today showed that the country's leader Kim Jong-un visiting another village rebuilt after recent damage. Since early August, North Korea has been hit by a slew of typhoons and storms. Widespread weak infrastructure means homes and communities are very vulnerable to heavy weather. When disaster strikes, North Korea often mobilizes its military and regular citizens to help recovery. This year, Kim has made a series of high-profile visits to damaged regions. The last bulletin of Kim Jong-un's visit to a reconstruction project of a rural community appeared just this past Saturday. It was also filmed in the same province of North Hwang-hai. A powerful but plodding Hurricane Sally was crawling towards the northern Gulf Coast of the United States today. Rains from the storm's outer bands was plummeting northwest Florida early today, and Governor Ron DeSantis declared an emergency in two western panhandle counties. The storm's slow movement is raising concerns of extreme rainfall and flooding. President Donald Trump issued an emergency declaration of parts of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama yesterday as the storm approached. Sally has sustained winds of 137 kilometers per hour and is expected to strengthen later today. It was moving at a sluggish 3.2 kilometers per hour. The Spanish military said today it has sent 120 soldiers to the northwest province of Orense to battle a series of wildfires. There's particular concern about the spread of fires in the areas of Lobios, Volarino de Conso, and Cualedro. The wildfires have so far affected a total of 3,000 hectares. The flames have not directly affected the houses of residents in nearby villages, but some people have lost their properties in more isolated areas. This is the Sultan of Oman Television. Before tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. His Majesty Sultan Haitham meets a number of sheikhs of the wilayats of the Governorate of Dhofar at a personal hall in the Wilaya of Salala. His Majesty gives his generous directives in a direct dialogue with his loyal people for the prosperity of this dear country. And His Majesty the Sultan greets His Excellency, the President of the United Mexican States, on his country's Independence Day anniversary. With that, we come to the end of this evening's bulletin from all of us here in the newsroom and the studios. Thanks for your time. Good night.